So let us report on RCEP, regional, right? Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Yes, it is an agreement. So multilateral agreements. Why? Because trade is very important. Without trade, we can't exist. Why trade is important? The reason is neither a country nor a person is self-sufficient in the world. That's why we must rely upon the trade. Without trade, we can't exist. We can't grow at faster growth rate. We are subjected to slower growth rate. That is the problem. So you must increase your trade with other countries. The basic reason is geographical disadvantage. Why trade is permissible? The reason is geographical disadvantage. For example, Gulf countries, they are having petrol. If they dig the hole, petrol comes. Geographically advantage. For example, if you dig out a hole in India, can you get the petrol? No. Geographical disadvantage. So, due to presence of geographical disadvantage, you must import petrol. That's all. Out of 100 yes, points, 80% of the petroleum products are being imported. Because with reference to petrol, we are having geographical disadvantage. I think it's clear. Very nice. So, due to presence of geographical disadvantage, the problem of scarcity is erupted. Scarcity, right? Then to deal scarcity, we have to import the goods. But to import the goods, you need a foreign exchange. FER, foreign exchange reserves we need it. So, to earn foreign exchange reserves, FER, you must export the goods, right? Export the goods. So, ultimately, it is understood that imports, exports are the must. Whatever the country doesn't matter, whether it is developing, developed doesn't matter. Every country depending upon trade. Without trade, you can't exist. It is true. It was unearthed by Adam Smith in 1776 itself. He propounded the concept. The concept was free trade. Yes, free movement of goods and services among the countries is the must. That's all. You must try to encourage the trades. Without trade, you can't get faster growth rate. You are subjected to slower growth rate, isn't it? Yes. Free trade. The book which was written by him, yes, was Wealth of Nations. In that he mentioned that free trade is permissible among the countries, then only you can realize faster growth rate. Otherwise, you have to face untold hardships. It's true. But the world countries didn't understand the concept what was right proposed by Mr. Adam Smith. So 1995 WTO started. We knew the fact after centuries. So that's why we have to follow the intellectuals. We have to listen the words of intellectuals. Okay. So even WTO, World Trade Organization, also not came into existence fully. Okay. But WTO permitted to encourage the bilateral agreements between two countries, multilateral agreements among few countries. I think it's clear. Yes. So according to WTO, we can enter into bilateral agreements, multilateral agreements. Why trade is needed? I explained it. Whether it is a poor country or rich country, doesn't matter. Yes, trade is the must. Why? Because no country is self-sufficient because of geographical disadvantage. Whenever geographical disadvantage is erupted, then scarcity takes place. To deal scarcity, imports are the must. To import the goods and services, you need an APR, foreign exchange reserves, dollars. To earn APR, you must export. To export your goods to abroad, your goods are having quality international standards. Then only they are to be exported, otherwise not. Okay. To prepare qualitative goods, we need to have a research and development. We need to have a human resources. We need to have intellectuals. Isn't it? Right. So research and development is very important. Higher education is very important. Then only we can produce qualitative goods. Those goods only to be exported. With exports, we can get the APR, foreign exchange reserves. With APR, we can get the imports. I think it's clear. Yes. So import, export constituted the word which is right trade. The trade is propounded by Mr. Adam Smith in 1776 itself. He propounded foreign trade, but it was came into force in 1995 in the name of World Trade Organization. I think it's clear. Yes. So since 1995, we are having numerous bilateral, yes, multilateral trades agreements. Okay. So RCEP, one of them. Yes, RCEP, right, to externalize free trade agreement. Of course, it is free trade agreement. Okay. Regional comprehensive economic partnership having 15 countries. Okay. So, right, India, one of the members at founding position, but after yes, serious discussions, India exited from RCEP. So why India exited, whether it is good or bad, everything can be dealt in the right video. Now RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, having right 15 countries, ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN countries, 10 countries plus 5 countries, total 15 countries. India exited. If India is continued, the number seems 16, not 15. I think it's clear. Yes. So here we need to know about RCEP. So we exited, whether it is a good idea or bad idea. Okay. So we are going to see. Right. The first point you see here. Okay. First point. Part and parcel of global trade. Yes, the FTA, free trade agreements. RCEP was signed in 2020 and came into force 2022. So RCEP actually led by China. That's why we far away from RCEP. Actually, that is the main reason. And besides that, already we are having trade deficit with China. When we enter into RCEP, what happens here? We need to lessen the import duty. We need to lessen the import duty 80 to 90%. We have to reduce the import duty. Then the foreign goods flooded, especially from China. Already we are having trade deficit with China. Right? I think it's clear. Yes. So of course, initially we were the members, but after taking series of meetings, just we understood that the meeting, yes, nature is not good. Why? Because it is led by China. Yes. So that's why the features of monarch, especially of China, just we is not like. That's why exited. So it is a good idea. Okay, we are going to see good or bad. I think it's clear. Yes. So RCEP. Yes, externalize regional comprehensive economic partnership, right? Multilateral agreement constituted 15 countries. Yes, one group, that is ASEAN countries, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, constituted 10 countries. Besides that, 5 countries are there. What were those 5 countries are to be dealt in this video itself? Just okay. So when you enter into RCEP, you need to reduce the import duties 80 to 90%. Then the 15 countries goods may be flooded to India, then home industry may be affected. That's why we thought seriously and took finally a good decision for let exit. Okay, accepted. Okay, the first point is okay. The second point you take. Right. The concept started in 2012. Since then, a series of meetings held among member countries finally came into force 2022. But India exited from RCEP due to the leakages. Some leakages, whatever those we are going to see. Okay, so the concept started actually yes 2012. At that time we were there. Then yes in 2020 member countries signed. Then came into force 2022. This is RCEP. As having 15 countries. India exited because the reason is we need to lessen the import duties. So our goods may not compete yes with the 15 countries. That is the main problem. Already considerable deficit we are having yes with China. That's why if you join in RCP again, the deficit may be widened. That is the problem. Just we identified the problem. Okay, right. Right. Third point. RCEP considers 15 countries which are China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Asian countries. As I told you, right? Okay. Here ASEAN, then 5 countries. Here 10 countries. What were those? China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand. Total 15 countries. The concept erupted in which year? It was 2012, and in which year member countries signed? 2020, and came into force 2022. Right. It was of course free trade agreement and multilateral. Why? Because many countries are there, countries. That's why we call it as okay. So according to WTO, multilateral agreements, bilateral agreements are permissible. Why? Because WTO not came into force fully. I think it's clear. Yes. Okay. So we avoided the yes agreement because of some problems. So we feared that if we join in that yes agreement, our trade deficit may be widened. Then we lose the foreign exchange reserves to abroad. That is a problem. Okay, why? Because you see here, for example, South Korea, not a joke, right? Okay, Japan, China, right? New Zealand, Australia, very terrific countries. Okay, so of course, with reference to milk, we are the yes largest producers. But milk products, we are very weak in milk products. If you open your doors, yes, milk products from New Zealand, Australia flooded into yes country. That is a problem. So you may ask why yes we are having fear yes to join in RC. The main reason is yes India. Okay, right. You see here economy. Economy constituted goods and services. Yes. So between goods services here, goods are very important than services. But unfortunately, we relied upon services. 54% of Indian GDP is simply coming from services, not goods. Of course, goods and services both are important, but within the goods and services, the important one is the goods than services. China relied upon goods, we relied upon services. That's why China GDP 18.5 trillion dollars. India GDP 3.7 trillion dollars. Why? Because they relied upon goods, we relied upon services. Our economy is service-based economy. That is a blunder mistake which was done by our planners. Why? Because here goods are so important than services. For example, China is the enemy country. Okay, accepted. However, we import the raw material which is needed in the pharmacy from China. That is API, accurate pharmaceutical ingredients. API, we call it as the raw material in the pharmacy is used. I think it's clear. So even though China is the enemy country, we import raw material which belongs to pharmacy from China. That is the greatness of the goods. So we have to produce the goods. If you produce goods, even enemy countries also import your goods, but not services. So we have to know the fact. So even though lapse of 75 years of independence, our yes GDP seems very meager, only $3.7 trillion. The problem is leakages, unlimited leakage we are having. So we have to convert our economy from service based to goods based. Then only we get faster growth rate. Otherwise, no. I think it's clear. Yes. Right. So that's why here we are very weak in international trade. Imports exceeded exports. That is the problem. Okay, especially these 5 countries are very terrific: China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand. Yes, when we join in the RCEP, we have to reduce the import duties 80 to 90%. Automatically, these goods, especially from these countries, flooded into India. That is the main problem. We can lose foreign reserves to foreign countries. That is the main problem. I think it's clear. Very nice. Okay. Point number 4. Asian countries includes Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam. Okay, Asian again free trade agreement, right? Yes, we are going to take a special video over Asia later, not now, right? Okay, right. So every point, right, either national or international matter, we are going to cover in videos, right, in current economy. So here, with reference to RCEP, 10 countries, Asia, 5 countries, as I told you now, 15 countries, I think it's clear. Yes. So if India joined, the number seems 16, not 15, but we exited. The main reason is we are not able to compete, right? Especially with New Zealand, Australia, Japan, South Korea, China. Okay, that's why. Okay, Mr. Modi, right, exited from RCEP. It is a good decision. Why? Because with the RCEP agreement, China was benefited a lot. Recently, one report open. We are going to see about the report also, right? Okay, right. Next one. Right. Fifth, RCEP is the world largest trade bloc with 15 members nations accounting around 30% of the world population, 30% of world GDP. So it is the largest multilateral agreement, right? Okay, RCEP. Here how many countries are there? 15 countries. Here ASEAN plus 5 countries. ASEAN having 10 countries plus 5 countries. Yes, total 15 countries. If India was joined, the number seems 60, not 50, right? Okay, keep aside. Then here 30% of the population dealt by the RCEP, 30% population, and also 30% the global GDP also dealt by the RCEP. That's why it is the largest trade bloc. I think it's clear. Yes, this point. You see next. Right, sixth point. Sixth point. Okay. Right. China was the single most important factor for India's reluctance to join RCEP and imperialist objective, especially of the Belt Road Initiative. Especially they are constructing Belt Road Initiative (BRI) in order to increase the world trade. Okay, right. That's why we are not interested, right? Why? Because they are constructing roads with our neighboring countries, especially Bangladesh, right, Sri Lanka, right, Maldives, right, Pakistan, right. So in order to threaten the country, right, they are constructing BRI. So if we felt it, right, okay. And next one is here, the features of imperialistic features. That is the main problem, right? So because of China's domination, China's imperialistic futures, and already we are having trade deficit with China. If we join in the RCEP, the trade deficit may be widened. That is the problem. That is the fear we have. That's why, yes, technically, right, Mr. Modi simply exited from, right. Actually, India was the founding member, but the thing is that in 2020, right, exited, right. Okay, come to the point. Right. Seventh point, you take. One of the India's key concerns was the threat to right locally manufacturers posed by Australia, New Zealand through milk products. Next one is, for example, of course, India is the largest producer with reference to milk, but we are very weak in milk products. We are strong in milk, but we are weak in right milk products. If you open your gates to right, especially RCEP, especially the milk products from Australia and New Zealand dumped into India, then our trade deficit right may be widened. We may lose our foreign exchange. That's why we are away from, especially from RC. That is the main reason. Of course, China very strong, right? Already we are having trade deficit, but because largest import country, right, to India, it is right China. Okay, is especially with reference to right trade, right, imports, yes, China. Then our exports, right, to US. That's already we are having trade deficit. When you join RCEP, further the yes trade deficit may be right wider, and that is the problem what we are having. That's why just simply we keep away from the right RCEP. I think it's clear. Very nice. Okay. Right. Eighth point you take. Right. Eighth point. The worry is apparent as existing trade with China already in deficit, and RCEP may further widen the deficit. As I told you, no. So of course, the trade deficit we are very yes large with China. That is a problem. Okay. So you may ask why right Chinese are moving at faster growth rate in trade. The main reason is right. So you see here, especially skills are given much importance in China. You see here, for example, with reference to right economy, goods and services. As I told you, goods and services. Okay, they are giving much importance to goods, but India giving much importance to service. There is service-based economy, but goods are very important than services. So that's why, in order to produce more goods and services, especially with reference to goods, okay, they are following dual education. Dual education with reference to schooling, right? Okay, our student is in the school, 4 hours is given right the bookish knowledge, and rest of 4 hours is given as a training in skilling, how goods are produced, how goods are repaired. This is a thing that which is yes given importance in China. That is dual education. Sir, we are giving no dual education. That is the main problem. That's why the skilling population is very high in China. That is the main problem. Okay. So we have to convert this situation, right? We also need to follow right skills importance. Okay, we should try to follow right dual education, not quaternary education. Okay, so it is understood that I have to give an example in this area. For example, you see here, you see here, uh, especially out of 100 workers, I have to give an example. Out of 100 workers in South Korea, 95% of workers are skilled in South Korea. But with reference to India, out of 100 workers, only 5% of workers are skilled in India. Yes, this is the situation what we are having. That's why goods which are produced by us are inferior. Goods which are produced by the SK superior. Only superior goods are to be exported. That is the main problem. So that's why we should try to provide skilling is very important. Goods are important than the services. These are the measures should be taken. So we needed remedial measures in order to yes increase our exports. To do so, goods are very important. Okay, that's why workers are given yes sufficient training in skilling. I think it's clear. Yes. So that's why the worry point is already we are having yes deficit with China. When you yes become the member in RCEP, again the yes deficit may be further widened. That is the problem. That's why we keep away from the RCEP. Okay, I think it's clear. Very nice. You see here. Okay, ninth point. India feared that the RCEP agreement would flood the foreign goods into India due to insignificant import duty, right? Especially, for example, according to here, right? Okay, here, for example, if you become member of RCEP, what happens here? RCEP, you need to decrease the import duty 80 to 90 percentage. When you reduce import duty 80 to 90%, what happens? The goods from China flooded into India, the goods from Australia flooded into India, the goods from New Zealand, yes, flood into India, Japan also flood into India. Yes, what happens here? Okay, the deficit may be widened. We have to lose our foreign exchange. That's why, Mr. Modi exited from RCEP. It is a good decision, right? Okay. Next, we move 10th point. Right. 10th point. What is this? The 10th point is, as India believing China is being benefited than other countries as confirmed by recent release data. So we confirmed that especially China only is benefited. The China dominated group, that's why we exited. Is it true or not can be dealt with the data we recently released. So what were the points which were mentioned in the data can be, yes, it can be unearthed. I think it's here. Yes. Okay. Now we should try to observe the data. Yes. Okay. Right. 11th point. What happens? Before RCEP, China had trade deficit with RCEP countries, but after agreement, China balance of trade become positive. Before agreement, the deficit 105.9 US billion. After trade surplus, yes, yes. Now we have to see. You see here. Here RCEP country with RCEP countries. Yes, with RCEP countries, China. Yes, before agreement. What was that trade deficit? How much trade deficit here? Right, before agreement trade deficit, how much? 105.9 US billion dollars. Okay, after agreement, surplus 33.4 US billion dollars. It is surplus, as I told you now. So deficit into surplus. That is the secret of China to form the group. So already we smelled it. That's why we exited. Right? Okay. So before agreement, China had a deficit with RCP country, 15 countries. How much it was there? 105 US billion dollars. But here became surplus. So deficit into surplus. That's why China was benefited a lot with the help of RCEP. So it was smelled by us before 2022. That's why just we exited from the yes agreement. This is the point number yes 11. Moving to 12. Right. Before agreement, China balance of trade with ASEAN countries was 61.2 US billion dollars, which was surplus to okay agreement. So I think as I told you, even okay, even Asian countries, as I told you, okay. Right. China, ASEAN. China, ASEAN. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, 10 countries, I told you. Yes, okay. So here before agreement, deficit, 1 minute, 12, 13, right. Okay. At ASEAN countries, we take ASEAN countries. ASEAN means extradise, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. How many countries were there? 10. With China, what was the position? China. China was had especially how much it was surplus. Yes, Before agreement, after agreement also it had a surplus with Asian countries. Surplus, how much? 61.2 US billion dollars. This is plus. Then after agreement, 106.7 US billion dollars, right? Plus. Means here the surplus has been increased with Asian countries. So China was benefited a lot with RCEP. How much it was? Of course, surplus, but surplus has been increased. So China is benefited a lot. This is a research data, right? I think it's clear. Yes. 13th, we move into 13th point. 13th. Okay, 30. What was that? China had trade deficit with Japan, which was 31.3 US billion dollars. Later changed to trade surplus at 0.3 US billion dollars. I think. Even with Japan also, right? China was benefited. You see here. Yes, sir. You see here, Japan with Japan, China. Before agreement, how much? It was trade deficit too much, 31.3 US billion dollars. That is minus. It was there. Okay, then convert into at 0.3 US billion dollars. It is yes plus. So with Japan also, China was right benefited. Okay, so that's why the decision which was taken by India, right, with reference to right RCP, right agreement. So the decision which was taken by us was the good decision. Why? Because when we join into right RCP, what happens here? So total 15 countries goods may be flooded into India. So that's why the trade deficit may be right wider. Especially very terrific countries are there. China already we are having trade deficit, and Australia not a joke, right? New Zealand not a joke. South Korea is not a joke, right? Okay, and China. Okay, so it is understood that the decision which was taken by the yes India for right exit, right? It is laudable. Okay, accepted. So next one is your 14. We take yes right 14th point. 14th point we take. What was the point? So China had trade deficit with Australia as 80.8 US billion dollars agreement, and then later deficit lessened. Of course, before agreement, after agreement, trade deficit was there with the what was the country? That country was Australia, but yes, later changed. The deficit especially lowered, lessened. So just what was the country? Australia. Australia. Before, how much trade deficit? 80.8 US billion dollars minus. After agreement, 62.4 US billion dollars, of course minus, but minus lessened. Trade deficit lessened. So ultimately China is benefited. I think it's clear. So whatever the country you take away, maybe with Asian countries, maybe other countries, China is benefited. That was the master plan which was done by the right China in order to formation of the right RCEP right agreements. So that's why yes, fortunately we smelled the situation. That's why exited yes from RCEP was a good decision, right? Okay, right. Okay. Next point we take right. 15th point you take na. 15th point. What was the 15th point? Okay. Right, you see here with yes, what was the country? China lowered its trade deficit with South Korea. South Korea also. SK. SK with SK also China benefited. How much it was trade deficit? 48.6 US billion dollars of trade deficit was there before agreement. And after agreement, how much it is? Right, 6.6 US billion dollars of trade deficit. Minus was there, minus was there. But thing is that the minus lessened, the trade deficit has been lessened after yes formation of the RCEP. So that's why here the sole benefiter is the China after formation of RCEP. Okay, that's why. Okay, of course they are having right concentration especially over goods. Okay, so that's why, and skilling very important. Okay, and single party system they are having. Okay, so whatever they feel, yes, within fraction of seconds the policy is right ready. But for example, you see, for example, with reference to GST, just it took around 15 years, right, to into execution. That's why whatever they feel immediately within fraction of seconds they can implement. Such a situation, yes, presence in China, but not in India. That's why yes, we are having slower growth rate. So we should try to convert our slower growth rate into faster growth rate. To do so, concentrate on goods, concentrate on research and development, concentrate on higher education, concentrate on skilling. Then only we can lead the country, otherwise not. Why? Because of course in GDP we are having fifth rank accepted, but how much GDP just you mobilized? Okay, in 75 years, how much? Yes, GDP, just $3.7 trillion. Okay, of course, rank fifth, it doesn't matter. Rank is not important. How much? Yes, income you mobilized here, only 3.7. Yes, it is meager when we compare with other, especially neighboring country, which is China. They mobilize 8.5. I think it's here, yeah. We move into right 16th point. Yes, what was that 16th point? Right, you see here 16th. Okay, here. So China also lowered its trade deficit with New Zealand a 6.4 to as 4.7. Okay, then of course New Zealand, it is a very powerful country, right? Okay, that's why India, yes, China is having deficit, but deficit has been lowered. Ultimately, China has benefited. I think it's clear. Yes, that's why you finally understood that the decision which was taken by India was justiciable. Okay, why? Because we keep away from RCEP was the good decision. Why? Because when we enter into RCEP, the foreign goods, especially 15 countries' goods, may be flooded into India. That's why. What happens here? We lose foreign exchange reserves. Very precious foreign exchange reserves. Yes, likely to be yes lost. That is a problem. So that's why the decision which is taken by the yes Indian government of yes towards exit from RCP was laudable. The right decision which was taken by yes government of India. I think it's clear. Yes. So that's why, of course, bilateral agreements are good, bilateral agreements are good, but the thing is that we have to compete with the goods. To do so, we should try to yes encourage the skilling is very important. Make in India just to be started. Very, very good, right? And we should try to concentrate on infrastructure, roadways, railways, airways, waterway, teleport. It is very important. Not freebies. Don't concentrate on freebies. Okay, that's why this is the yes good decision taken by the government of India for exit yes, from RCEP. Okay, yes. Thank you. Right.